Scott Peterson uses italics a lot, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when I grabbed the text for this piece that he sent me a link to, I inadvertently stripped all formatting. So I'll do the best I can about where to put emphasis. I'm sure I'm going to blow it in a few places, but I'll do the best I can. It's hard to. I remember when I learned that you shouldn't use italics rather than, putting a comma or breaking it up in some other way if you want emphasis on something. If you send a letter to the Ukiah Daily Journal, but they don't print anything I write to them anymore, so that isn't a problem. I guess I can just dismiss that as a concern. Easy Money is the title of this piece by Scott M. Peterson. Scott Peterson writes, Ron and Edith Nelson are the sweetest couple you could ever hope to meet. Owners of placement services in Pleasant Hill, the Nelsons placed elderly people into old folks' homes. Nelda Asuncion worked with them as a realtor on behalf of Realty World Pacific West in Concord, and Chris Lagarejos helped them as a financier for legacy financing, also in Pleasant Hill. Why? Because they're all such nice people. By 2012, Placement Services had bought and operated 20 residential home care facilities in Northern California, all with the help of Realty World Pacific West and Legacy Financing. That's capital L, capital F. The Nelsons started their business in 2001. Lagarejos had only been a licensed real estate broker since 2004, and Asuncion had no official license at all, but that didn't slow them down. After the subprime mortgage meltdown of 2007, housing was in short supply. So with the wind at their backs, Nelson and Company made an absolute killing. Business was so darn good that Ron and Edith didn't need a website. In fact, none of them did. The largest affordable housing development in Mendocino County is a 92-apartment complex by the name of Ukiah Autumn Leaves. Although that nonprofit was formed to assist, quote, elderly lower-income persons in 1975, it now includes other categories as well. In March of 2011, the city of Ukiah identified Autumn Leaves as the biggest of 11 such complexes to be at risk for conversion into market-rate housing, i.e. condos, but dismissed that possibility because Autumn Leaves had no intention, intention spelled I-N-T-E-N-S-I-O-N, sick, that's S-I-C, not the other kind of sick, of doing such a thing. Since the path to hell is paved with good intentions, I decided to take a little walk over yonder. Ukiah Autumn Leaves is joined at the hip with the shiny new California State Grange, a pro-business entity that bulldozed the old State Grange into oblivion. Local chapters with half a brain reorganized under the California State Guild to protect their property from a land grab. Others fell in line, including Ukiah Autumn Leaves, which is reportedly led by a distant relative of mine, Bob Canclini. So I gave him a holler. Bob's what we call long in the tooth here, meaning that he just celebrated his 86th birthday a week or so before. You don't mess with people like that. I hadn't spoken with him in a decade, at least, so I wanted to keep it short. Bob confirmed that he was the president at Ukiah Autumn Leaves now, and that it's a very fine place. We just paid off the mortgage, he told me. There was a note of pride in his voice. The entire mortgage? I asked. Yes, he replied. The whole darn thing. He also confirmed something I'd learned previously. The Ukiah Autumn Leaves was managed by a fellow in Santa Rosa named Ted Barcelone. Check. Barcelone's name appears on records going back since Autumn Leaves' inception in 1975. If a lowly pond scum journalist like me wants a Form 990 or any other information, it goes through Ted. Fortunately, the state of California keeps the same records on its website at the Registry of Charitable Trusts, all the way back to 2000. So I downloaded everything first. Then I dropped Ted an email based on some paperwork I'd gotten from the Mendocino County Recorder's Office. That paperwork indicated that Ukiah Autumn Leaves had just mortgaged its property for $750,000 in May of 2016, right after the old mortgage had been paid off. The weird thing was this. Autumn Leaves Form 990s never reported that money, any of it, not on its balance sheet as debt, nor on its operating statements as income. That gigantic pile of untaxed money simply passed through Ukiah Autumn Leaves in 2016 and did it without leaving a trace. How could that happen? I was raised in the picturesque seaside town of Mendocino, just like Bob Canclini. Everybody had a livelihood back then. My dad worked at the Fort Bragg sawmill. My Uncle Joe worked for the Mendocino School District. My mom worked as an accountant. And Bob Canclini, I honestly couldn't tell you what his occupation was when I sat down to write this, so I Googled him. Canclini graduated from Mendocino High School in 1949. In 1975, he was savvy enough to get elected mayor of Tracy, California, a city of 80,000-plus people. Local newspaper archives show he was appointed to the Mendocino Historical Review Board in 1983, and then he was on the Mendocino County Planning Commission in 1987. Yet Mendocino County records indicate Canclini didn't register to vote here until February 23, 1992. Years after he was serving in office, he reappeared again in meeting minutes of the Albion Little River Fire Department as both the trustee and advocate for Mendocino Redwood Company's hack and squirt deforestation policy in 2015, but got outvoted. So he resigned. Given Mr. Canclini's illustrious past, one may reasonably conclude that he's A, smart, and B, pro-business. So the idea of him losing track of a $750,000 mortgage doesn't hold water, unless a smart and pro-business development opportunity is afoot, which takes us back to Ukiah Autumn Leaves. The $1.7 million mortgage on that property was backed by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. So as long as that loan was in place, converting 92 units into market rate units wasn't going to happen, or was it? A peek at UAL's Form 990s suggests otherwise. From 2000 on, rent increases have outpaced inflation by 15%, suggesting that market rate conversion is already taking place, albeit gradually. The city of Ukiah values a development like that at $9.2 million. And that's not counting the land. The price tag on that puppy rose in 2014 when, ta-da, its deal with HUD expired. That certainly explains what happened in 2015 when the average rent at UAL shot up $76 a month. Yeah, baby. So that only begs the question, why take out another mortgage? I figured that it'd all be explained on the Ukiah Autumn Leaves website, so I went ahead and Googled it. Ukiah Autumn Leaves has no website, none. The closest thing I could find was an advertisement for California Affordable Rentals, where the contract for UAL is listed as Barcelona Associates. They don't have a website either, not currently anyway. The Wayback Machine reveals two website snapshots for that outfit, one from 2008, another from 2014, but that's all. Both of them suggest that Barcelona is a full-service real estate operation, just like the one that Ron and Edith Nelson ran. California State Grange records show Ukiah Autumn Leaves as an affiliate there. So I went to former State Grange member Bruce Broderick to see if he had any dope on UAL or Barcelona. That's where I got a bingo. Jackpots don't get any better than what Broderick had for me. It was a gigantic stack of documents, including UAL's latest mortgage, meeting minutes, and audited financial statements. He'd gotten them straight from the horse's mouth. The mortgage came from the Mendocino County Recorder's Office, while the minutes and financial statements came from Bob McFarland at the old California State Grange. Broderick has a business to run and hadn't the time to go through them, so he handed them off to me. All of the meeting minutes I saw relied on paperwork provided by Ted Barcelona. Each set includes something that appears to be a mortgage statement from Capmark recording a $15,000 plus monthly payment. One of them is from November of 2007, where Bob Canclini was present. Yet the statement signed as a, quote, true and correct report by Mr. Barcelona swears that payment was only $8,618.72, which, if true, would be less than interest only on a $1.7 million mortgage with 7% juice. Stranger still was a set of minutes for October of 2005 with the exact same accounting irregularity. In addition, there were two pairs of $100,000 credits and draws on the mortgage statement for the same day. The financial report was read by Mr. Barcelona himself and then accepted by UAL trustees, suggesting that nobody but Barcelona had seen that statement. The amount for Barcelona's, quote, management fees that month were a mere $2,732.58, which annualized would amount to a very reasonable $32,784 per year for Barcelona. Yet, Manta estimates their annual income at considerably more, $256,818, which is pretty miraculous considering they don't have a website. The biggest prize of all was a set of audited financial statements for 2005 in their original binding, complete with a warning from the accountant, quote, "In reviewing the accounting system, it was determined that the accounting person recording accounts receivable also makes bank deposits. Management should attempt to segregate these duties to the extent possible by having the manager approving deposits prior to accounting person making deposits." That warning apparently didn't sit well with Barcelona. The CPA who'd reported that, Michael Celentano, suddenly became a lot less visible thereafter. His signature flat out vanished from Form 990s from that point on, and by 2009 he'd gotten replaced by a Bay Area CPA named Dennis Lorette, who, according to Manta, pulls down annual pay estimated at $431,172, which isn't too shabby for an accountant with an expired license and no website. And since UAL doesn't itemize accounting expenses on its Form 990s, the sky's the limit for Lorette there today, as long as he doesn't complain. Good reviews are scarce as hen's teeth for Ukiah Autumn Leaves. Ditto for Barcelona Associates. I could only find one on Mr. Barcelona's Facebook page, and it was terrible. The reviewer was a young mother named Audrey Cade, who claims that Barcelona tried to sue her for having an autistic child. UAL has a Facebook page, but no reviews at all, which is odd for something that Bob Canclini told me was such a great place to live. My last communication with Bob was an email where I sent him to an inventory of records that he might have access to. It includes monthly meeting minutes, Form 990s, audits, and state renewal forms from 1975 forward. Not that I needed them, because I already had many of them. All I wanted to know was whether or not UAL trustees had access to them. I've yet to hear back from Mr. Canclini on that matter. That followed another email that I copied to Ted Barcelone, asking for copies of the Form 990s for 2015 and 2016 within 10 days, something he's legally obliged to do. I haven't got a response on that one either. Finally, I asked if he knew anything about the $750,000 mortgage. Mr. Canclini seems to have gone radio silent after that. Treasurers are customary in nonprofits like Ukiah Autumn Leaves. According to UAL's bylaws, they're required. But when you look at UAL's Form 990s for the last decade plus, you'll notice something odd. There's no treasurer. How can a nonprofit protect its assets without one? And how could it pay off a $750,000 mortgage without one? The answer is simple. Trustees are kept in the dark. All of UAL's Form 990s report that, quote, no documents other than Form 990s are available to the public. Unless you count the Registry of Charitable Trusts, where everything is available to the public. All you need is an internet connection. Robbing old people happens all the time. Why? Because it's so darn easy. One source even compared it to the natural world. When cows get old, he said, wolves don't wait for them to die. That made me think of the 92 units at Ukiah Autumn Leaves as a virtual feeding frenzy for those who prey on the elderly. Then asking myself not why it had happened here, but why it wouldn't. In 2011, MetLife did a study on elder financial abuse. It found press reports on that subject at the rate of 1,076 per year, but that the actual occurrence is suspected to be 40 times higher, indicating that more often than not the wolves get away. The last treasurer reported at UAL is a lady named Ursula Parch. That's according to a website at findthecompany.com. The revenue from that report dovetails with UAL's Form 990 for 2014, but Parch is listed as secretary on that record. Maybe she didn't know about that report, so I sent her an email with 3 questions. 1, was she the treasurer at Ukiah Autumn Leaves? 2, did she know anything about a $750,000 mortgage being taken out on the property in 2016? And 3, did she know about the 2016 assignment of rents agreement? That contract, if true, would appear to strip UAL of all future income. As such, it should have been put to a vote and recorded in meeting minutes. And as secretary, according to Form 990s, she should have them. That's what the bylaws require. Unlike her peers, Ms. Parch has a website complete with a contract form. Not that any response was expected. I just thought she'd want a heads up in case something bad happened. Ron and Edith Nelson pled guilty to bank fraud, money laundering, and tax evasion in February of 2012. So did Nelda Asuncion and Chris Lagarejos between December of 2002 and January of 2007 that recruited straw buyers to submit fraudulent applications for 63 bank loans that swindled lenders out of $20 million. On top of that, the Nelsons hired 12 illegal immigrants to work in their facilities, paid them less than minimum wage, and threatened to turn them over to immigration authorities unless they played ball. How they did it was brilliantly simple. All that money changed hands through wire transfers, which appears to be how Ted Barcelone made the mortgage payments on behalf of Ukiah Autumn Leaves. It also may answer the question of why UAL needed a $750,000 mortgage in 2016, suggesting that half of those mortgage payments hadn't been made, just like Barcelone had been saying all along in the reports he read. I'm just blown away by how smart Scott Peterson would have to be to follow all of these details and make a story out of it. This is not the kind of reporting that I ever learned how to do. And he's amazing, and he comes up with something like this every single week and sends it to me. If you'd like me to read what you write on the air, on any subject and for any purpose, I will do it. All you have to do is send it to me, and my email address is memo@mcn.org.